which as Dixieland jazz was waning, the five-string banjo then started to really emerge in bluegrass music. I want to show you an example of some Dixieland style. This is actually from the revival period. This is from 1963 on Australian television. So you get the idea. And a couple things there. First of all, he's playing solo there, so he's doing both melody as well as rhythm. But he's also employing a couple of techniques. He's doing, he's obviously picking notes. He's playing a tenor banjo. But he's also doing a tremolo effect. He's he's doing a tremolo technique, which was kind of borrowed from the mandolin. Like I said, mandolin players started to play banjo, and the mandolin, that very fast right hand is used in the mandolin as well as used in the banjo. So, sorry. Very fast right hand. Obviously, I'm not that talented at it, but that's a technique that's borrowed from the mandolin that would then wind up in the Dixieland style of banjo play. And I mentioned Eddie Peabody, king of the banjo, and he was a big deal, especially in vaudeville. He wasn't necessarily a big player in jazz bands. I think he was involved in a few, but mainly he was a solo player. He just shows how very talented, first of all, he is, and the importance of the banjo in wooing women. So one thing that just amazes me is he was a big deal in his day. It's amazing. I've never heard of him. When I ask anybody, can you name a banjo player, historical banjo player, who do we always think of? Earl Scruggs, probably. A Scruggs style banjo, which I'll talk about here in a second. Now, first of all, since the banjo became very popular, why does it have that distinct, unique sound? Well, Tom Moore from Rollins College in Florida, who apparently is speaking at the meeting on Wednesday. I've never met him, actually. I just kind of found his research, but he's done some studies as far as the sound of the banjo, what's so unique about it. Because a lot of work has been done on plucked strings, and a lot of work has been done on struck membranes. And thank you, Harvey, for such a took the load off trying to explain struck membranes quite a bit. But the interesting thing about a banjo is that it's actually kind of a combination of the two. You got the plucked string that goes from the nut to the bridge, and of course then the bridge moves vertically and causes the membrane or the head to vibrate. So it's kind of a combination of those two, those two systems. And so they've done some research, and actually what they did was they took a good old five-string banjo, took the resonator off the back of it, and pointed a laser at the head from the back to be able to show to be able to investigate the motion of the head after being forced, they actually, instead of plucking it with a pick, they actually just used a little driver to move the head, and then they figured out the impedance, by essentially taking the force exerted on the bridge and then measuring the velocity of the head. And here's an example, a picture of their experimental setup. And here's a nice 5-string banjo and some lasers, and it's very impressive. Another person who's done some research into this is Joe Dickey, who lives in Maryland. I'm not sure what his affiliation is, but he's done some modeling of pluck strings as well as, so there's a typical pluck string, very, very triangular to begin with, where the pluck occurs, but then of course it takes on more of a sinusoidal shape, and that string then forces vibrations of the head, which here's an example of the vibrating membrane of the head. And this is again from Steffi and Moore. They show on a speckle pattern interferometry. Victor Wooten and his brother Roy Wooten is future man who plays a drumitar. It's a synthesized drum kit on a guitar and a neck. But actually, I'll play it. I'll show you a piece that Bela wrote for actually the band's first album. It's a song called Sunset Road. I'm going to let him play it. But this is, of course, just someone caught him, I guess, in a guitar store or something like that, just got asked him to play it, and he played it. So it's kind of a nice version because it's just him. Easy enough. It's a very mellow tune, but it's definitely in the jazz vein because it starts out with a certain theme and kind of alters it, and when it goes through again, there's some different embellishments, and I'm sure he doesn't ever play it in the same place. But it's a nice little tune. On my finishing slide, I'll play you in the background. You'll hear the actual album version. But I do want to thank Tom for inviting me, first of all. This is my first AAPT meeting, my first chance to talk at an AAPT meeting, so that's it's been a real honor and pleasure. And I have to thank my wife, who has had to put, she doesn't want me to call her sweetheart anymore. After weeks of me practicing, no matter how much I love her, she doesn't want to hear, let me call you sweetheart one more time. That kind of goes for my children as well. I've got 3 boys under the age of 5, and they're pretty tired of hearing Daddy's banjo as well. But a little plug for myself. I do having been a weatherman, I do weather music for children, right? Songs about weather for kids. So if you want to learn more